Right now, as you listen to this, your mind is being hijacked. Every few seconds, your attention is being pulled in different directions. Your phone buzzes. Your mind wanders. You think about what happened yesterday or worry about tomorrow. And while this is happening, while your focus is scattered like confetti in the wind, someone else is using their laser-focused attention to build the life you want. This isn't just about productivity. This isn't just about getting more done. This is about the fundamental law that governs all success, all achievement, all transformation. Where focus goes, power flows. And if you can't control your thoughts, if you can't direct your focus, then you can't control your life. The most successful people on the planet aren't just lucky. They aren't just talented. They have mastered the one skill that multiplies every other skill they possess. They have learned to control their thoughts and direct their focus like a laser beam. While everyone else's attention is scattered, theirs is concentrated. While everyone else is distracted, they are deliberate. And that makes all the difference. By the end of this, you will understand why your current level of focus is keeping you trapped. You will discover the science behind mental control and why your brain fights against you. Most importantly, you will have a complete system for taking back control of your mind and directing your focus toward what matters most. This is not theory. This is the blueprint for mental mastery. Chapter 1. The focus crisis that's destroying your potential. Let me tell you something that will shock you. The average person checks their phone 6 times per day. That's once every 10 minutes during waking hours. But it gets worse. Every time you get distracted, it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully refocus on what you were doing. Do the math. If you're getting distracted every few minutes, you're never actually focused at all. You're living in a state of continuous partial attention, and it's killing your potential. While you think you're multitasking, what you're really doing is task switching at light speed, and each switch costs you mental energy, clarity, and power. You're burning cognitive fuel without getting anywhere, like spinning your wheels in mud. But here's what's really happening. Every time your focus scatters, you're not just losing time. You're losing the compound effect of concentrated effort. Think about sunlight. Spread out. It warms you. But focused through a magnifying glass, it can start a fire. Your attention works the same way. Scattered, it accomplishes nothing. Focused, it becomes unstoppable. The people who are dominating in every field understand this. They know that in a world full of distractions, the ability to focus has become a superpower. While everyone else is checking notifications, scrolling feeds, and jumping from task to task, they are going deep. They are entering flow states that most people haven't experienced in years. And in those states, they are creating value, solving problems, and building empires. You see this everywhere. The entrepreneur who built $1 million business didn't do it by checking email every 5 minutes. They did it by entering deep work sessions where they could think strategically, solve complex problems, and execute with precision. The athlete who dominates their sport didn't get there by having their mind on 10 different things. They trained their focus like a muscle until they could shut out everything except what mattered in that moment. But most people never learn this skill. They never train their focus. They let their attention be pulled in every direction by notifications, by social media, by the endless stream of information coming at them every day. They think they're staying connected, But what they're really doing is disconnecting from their own power, and the cost is enormous. When your focus is scattered, your energy is scattered. When your energy is scattered, your results are scattered. You end up working twice as hard for half the results because you never fully commit your mental resources to any one thing. You live in a state of mental mediocrity, always busy but never truly productive, always moving but never making real progress. This is why the gap between successful people and everyone else keeps growing. It's not just about talent or opportunity. It's about focus. The successful have learned to control their attention, and everyone else is letting their attention be controlled by forces outside themselves. One group is driving, the other is being driven. One group is focused, the other is fragmented, and the results speak for themselves. Chapter 2. The Neuroscience of Mental Control and Why Your Brain Works Against You. Your brain wasn't designed for the modern world. It was designed for survival in an environment where paying attention to everything could mean the difference between life and death. Every sound could be a predator. Every movement could be a threat. So your brain developed an attention system that's constantly scanning for new information, constantly ready to switch focus to whatever might be important. This served us well when we were living in small tribes and facing physical dangers. But in today's world, this ancient wiring is working against you. Your brain still treats every notification like a potential threat, every email like an emergency, every social media update like vital information you can't afford to miss. It's trying to protect you, but it's actually sabotaging your success. Here's what happens in your brain when you try to focus. The prefrontal cortex, your brain's CEO, tries to maintain attention on your chosen task. But at the same time, other parts of your brain are constantly scanning for distractions. When something grabs your attention, it triggers a dopamine release. This feels good, so your brain wants more. Before you know it, you're caught in a dopamine-seeking loop, constantly craving the next hit of stimulation. This is why willpower alone isn't enough. You're not just fighting against distraction. You're fighting against millions of years of evolutionary programming. Your brain is literally wired to seek novelty, to pay attention to new things, to constantly switch focus. And in our modern environment, there's an endless supply of novelty available at the touch of a button. But here's the incredible thing about your brain. It's also incredibly adaptable. This is called neuroplasticity, and it means you can actually rewire your brain for better focus. Every time you choose to maintain attention instead of getting distracted, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with focus. Every time you resist the urge to check your phone, you're building mental muscle. Your brain physically changes based on how you use it. The problem is, most people are training their brains in the wrong direction. Every time they give in to distraction, they're strengthening the neural pathways that make them more distractible. They're literally making themselves worse at focusing. It's like going to the gym and doing exercises that make you weaker instead of stronger. Think about it this way. Your attention is controlled by neural networks in your brain. These networks get stronger with use and weaker with neglect. If you constantly switch between tasks, you strengthen the task-switching network and weaken the sustained attention network. If you constantly seek stimulation, you strengthen the novelty-seeking network and weaken the deep focus network. But the reverse is also true. When you practice sustained attention, when you resist distractions, when you deliberately focus on one thing for extended periods, you strengthen the neural networks that support deep focus. You literally rewire your brain for concentration. This isn't just theory. Brain scans show that people who practice meditation and other focus-building activities actually have thicker cortexes in the areas associated with attention and sensory processing. This means that your current level of focus isn't permanent. It's not a fixed trait. It's a skill that can be developed. But like any skill, it requires deliberate practice. You can't just decide to focus better. You have to train your brain systematically and consistently to strengthen the neural pathways that support sustained attention. The most successful people intuitively understand this. They don't rely on willpower to stay focused. They create systems and environments that make focus easier and distraction harder. They train their brains like athletes train their bodies, with deliberate practice designed to build mental muscle. Chapter 3. The 4 deadly focus killers that keep you mentally weak. There are 4 invisible enemies destroying your mental power right now. These aren't obvious distractions like social media or notifications. These are deeper patterns that most people never recognize, which is why they never escape them. If you don't identify and eliminate these focus killers, all the productivity techniques in the world won't save you. Focus killer number 1. The multitasking myth. You've been lied to. The idea that multitasking makes you more productive is one of the most damaging myths of the modern world. When you think you're multitasking, what you're actually doing is rapidly switching between tasks. And every switch has a cost. Researchers call this task switching penalty. And it's devastating. Every time you switch from one task to another, your brain needs time to reorient. It has to figure out where you left off, what you were thinking about, what your next move should be. This transition period can last anywhere from a few seconds to several minutes, depending on the complexity of the tasks. But it gets worse. The more complex the tasks, the higher the switching cost. If you're trying to write an important email while thinking about a presentation you have to give later while mentally planning your weekend, you're not doing 3 things at once. You're doing each thing poorly. Your email lacks clarity because your attention is divided. Your presentation suffers because you're not fully engaged with the material. And your weekend planning is superficial because you're not really thinking it through. High performers understand this. They don't multitask. They monotask with intensity. When they're working on something important, that's the only thing they're working on. They give it their full attention, their full mental resources, their complete focus. And because they're not diluting their attention across multiple tasks, they accomplish more in less time and with higher quality results. Focus killer number 2. Decision fatigue drain. Every decision you make throughout the day depletes your mental energy. From what to wear, to what to eat, to which email to answer first, you're making hundreds of micro-decisions that gradually wear down your cognitive resources. By the end of the day, you don't have the mental energy left for the important stuff. This is why successful people automate as many decisions as possible. They wear the same type of clothes every day. They eat the same breakfast. They follow routines that eliminate unnecessary decision-making. They understand that mental energy is finite, and they want to conserve it for the decisions that actually matter. But most people do the opposite. They waste their mental energy on trivial decisions throughout the day, then wonder why they can't focus when it matters. They spend 10 minutes deciding what to have for lunch, then can't concentrate on important work in the afternoon. They debate whether to check their email now or later, burning mental fuel on decisions that shouldn't require any thought at all. The solution is ruthless prioritization of your mental energy. Identify the decisions that actually matter, the ones that move you toward your goals, and preserve your cognitive resources for those. Everything else should be automated, eliminated, or delegated. Focus killer number 3. The always-on addiction. Your phone isn't just a communication device. It's a slot machine designed to capture and monetize your attention. Every notification is engineered to trigger a dopamine response. Every app is designed to keep you scrolling. Every platform is optimized to make you addicted. And it's working. The average person spends over 7 hours a day looking at screens. That's more time than they spend sleeping, more time than they spend with their family, more time than they spend on any single activity except work. And even at work, they're often distracted by screens. This isn't just a productivity problem. It's literally rewiring your brain for distraction. Every time you check your phone, you're training your brain to seek immediate gratification instead of tolerating delayed rewards. You're conditioning yourself to crave constant stimulation instead of being comfortable with sustained attention. The most focused people treat their devices like tools, not entertainment. They use technology to enhance their capabilities, not to escape from reality. They have specific times when they check messages and social media. Instead of being constantly available, they understand that being always on makes them always off when it comes to deep work. Focus killer number 4. Mental clutter chaos. Your environment shapes your thinking. If your physical space is cluttered, your mental space becomes cluttered. If your digital life is disorganized, your thoughts become disorganized. Chaos in your surroundings creates chaos in your mind. Most people underestimate how much their environment affects their ability to focus. They try to do important work in spaces filled with distractions. They keep their phones on their desk while trying to concentrate. They work in noisy environments and wonder why they can't think clearly. They have dozens of browser tabs open and question why they feel mentally scattered. Your environment should support your focus, not fight against it. Every object in your workspace should have a purpose. Every tool should be deliberately chosen. Every distraction should be eliminated. The most productive people design their environments like laboratories for concentration. Everything supports the work. Nothing detracts from it. This extends to your digital environment too. Your computer desktop should be clean. Your browser should have only the tabs you need. Your phone should be in another room or at least face down when you're doing important work. You need to take control of your environment before you can take control of your mind. These 4 focus killers work together to create a perfect storm of distraction. The multitasking fragments your attention. The decision fatigue depletes your mental energy. The always-on addiction rewires your brain for instant gratification. And the mental clutter makes it impossible to think clearly. Together, they ensure that you never reach your full potential. But once you identify them, once you understand how they're sabotaging your success, you can begin to eliminate them. And when you do, you'll discover a level of mental power you forgot you had. Chapter 4. The Focus Power System for Complete Mental Domination. Now that you understand what's working against you, It's time to build the system that will give you complete control over your thoughts and attention. This isn't just another productivity technique. This is a comprehensive framework for mental domination that will transform how you think, work, and live. The Focus Power System is built on 4 pillars: attention architecture, cognitive control, flow state engineering, and power channeling. Master these 4 elements, and you'll be able to direct your mental resources with surgical precision toward whatever matters most. Let's break down each pillar. Pillar 1. Attention architecture. This is about designing your environment and your systems to support sustained focus instead of fragmenting it. Most people work against their own architecture. They create environments that make distraction easy and focus hard. Then they wonder why they can't concentrate. Attention architecture starts with understanding that your environment is an extension of your mind. If your environment is chaotic, your thinking becomes chaotic. If your environment is designed for focus, your thinking becomes focused. This means you need to engineer every aspect of your surroundings to support deep work. Your physical space should be optimized for the type of thinking you need to do. If you're doing creative work, you might need inspiring visuals and natural light. If you're doing analytical work, you might need a clean, minimal space that eliminates visual distractions. If you're doing communication-heavy work, you might need multiple monitors and easy access to your communication tools. But it goes deeper than just your physical space. Your temporal architecture matters too. This is about designing your schedule to protect your peak mental energy for your most important work. Most people do this backward. They waste their best hours on trivial tasks, then try to do important work when they're mentally drained. High performers do the opposite. They identify when their mental energy is highest, usually in the morning, and block out that time for their most important work. They batch similar tasks together to minimize task switching costs. They create buffer zones around their deep work sessions to ease into and out of focus states. Your digital architecture is equally important. This means setting up your devices and applications to support focus instead of undermining it. Turn off non-essential notifications. Use apps that block distracting websites during work sessions. Set up your computer so that everything you need for deep work is easily accessible, and everything that might distract you is hidden or eliminated. Pillar 2. Cognitive control. This is about training your mind like you would train your body. Just as you can build physical strength through deliberate exercise, you can build mental strength through deliberate practice. Cognitive control is the foundation of all mental performance. The key insight is that attention is like a muscle. The more you use it deliberately, the stronger it becomes. The more you let it wander, the weaker it gets. Most people never train their attention muscle, then wonder why they can't sustain focus when they need it. Cognitive control training starts with learning to notice when your attention has wandered. This sounds simple, but it's actually quite difficult. Most people are unconscious of their mental state. Their minds wander constantly, and they don't even realize it's happening. The first step is developing metacognitive awareness, which is the ability to observe your own thinking. Once you can catch your mind wandering, you can begin to redirect it. This is where the real training happens. Every time you notice your attention has drifted, and you deliberately bring it back to your chosen focus, you're doing a mental repetition. You're strengthening the neural pathways that support sustained attention. This is why meditation is so powerful for developing focus. It's not about relaxation or stress relief, although those are nice side effects. It's about training your mind to maintain attention on a chosen object, whether that's your breath, a mantra, or a visual focus point. Every time your mind wanders and you bring it back, you're building cognitive control. But meditation isn't the only way to build cognitive control. Any activity that requires sustained attention will strengthen this mental muscle. Reading challenging books without distractions, working on complex problems without switching tasks, having deep conversations without checking your phone. These are all forms of attention training. Pillar 3. Flow state engineering. Flow is the state of complete absorption in an activity. It's when you're so focused that everything else disappears. Time seems to slow down or speed up. Self-consciousness fades away. You feel like you're operating at peak capacity, effortlessly handling challenges that would normally stretch your abilities. Flow isn't just a nice experience. It's a high-performance state where you accomplish more in a few hours than most people accomplish in days. When you're in flow, your cognitive resources are fully aligned with your task. There's no mental friction, no inner resistance, no competing thoughts. All of your mental power is channeled toward a single objective. The problem is that most people experience flow rarely and randomly. They wait for it to happen, instead of deliberately creating the conditions that make it more likely. Flow state engineering is about understanding the specific conditions that trigger flow and systematically creating those conditions. Flow requires a balance between challenge and skill. If a task is too easy, you get bored. If it's too difficult, you get anxious. But when the challenge matches your skill level, when you're stretched but not overwhelmed, flow becomes possible. This means you need to continuously calibrate your challenges to match your growing abilities. Flow also requires clear goals and immediate feedback. You need to know exactly what you're trying to accomplish, and you need to be able to tell in real time whether you're succeeding. Vague goals and delayed feedback kill flow. Specific objectives and immediate feedback enhance it. Perhaps most importantly, flow requires the elimination of distractions. You can't enter a flow state if part of your mind is thinking about something else. This is where your attention architecture and cognitive control training pay off. The better you are at eliminating external distractions and controlling internal distractions, the more easily you can access flow states. Pillar 4. Power channeling. This is about directing your focused attention toward the activities that create the greatest impact. You can have perfect focus, but if you're focused on the wrong things, you won't get the results you want. Power channeling ensures that your mental resources are invested in activities that generate maximum return. Power channeling starts with ruthless prioritization. You need to identify the few activities that create disproportionate results and focus almost exclusively on those. This is the 80/20 principle applied to attention management. 20% of your activities probably generate 80% of your results. The key is identifying that 20% and protecting it with laser focus. Most people do the opposite. They give equal attention to everything on their to-do list. They spend as much mental energy on trivial tasks as they do on game-changing work. They let urgent but unimportant activities steal attention from important but non-urgent priorities. This is why they stay busy but never seem to make real progress. Power channeling also involves understanding the different types of thinking required for different types of work. Creative work requires divergent thinking, where you generate many possible solutions. Analytical work requires convergent thinking, where you evaluate and refine solutions. Strategic work requires systems thinking, where you consider relationships and long-term consequences. Each type of thinking requires different mental conditions. Creative thinking often benefits from relaxed focus and varied inputs. Analytical thinking requires intense focus and elimination of distractions. Strategic thinking needs perspective and time to process complex information. Understanding these differences allows you to match your mental state to your task requirements. The ultimate goal of power channeling is to create compound returns from your focused attention. When you consistently direct high-quality focus toward high-impact activities, the results multiply over time. Skills build on skills. Insights lead to breakthroughs. Small improvements compound into massive advantages. This is how focused individuals eventually leave unfocused competitors far behind. Chapter 5. Building your mental fortress against distraction. Your mind is under constant siege. Every moment of every day, forces are trying to capture your attention and redirect it toward their own interests. Social media companies want your attention so they can sell it to advertisers. News organizations want your attention so they can generate clicks and revenue. Entertainment companies want your attention so they can keep you consuming their content. In this war for your attention, you need more than just good intentions. You need a fortress. You need systematic defenses that protect your mental resources and ensure they're invested in your priorities instead of other people's agendas. Building this mental fortress is not optional if you want to succeed at the highest level. The foundation of your mental fortress is environmental design. This means creating physical and digital spaces that make focus easier and distraction harder. Most people do the opposite. They keep their phones next to their bed, then wonder why they can't sleep well. They work in open offices filled with interruptions, then complain about being unproductive. They leave social media notifications on, then act surprised when they can't concentrate. Your environment should be working for you, not against you. This starts with your physical workspace. It should be clean, organized, and free from unnecessary visual stimulation. Everything in your workspace should serve a specific purpose related to your important work. If it doesn't help you focus, it shouldn't be there. Your desk should contain only what you need for your current task. Extra papers, unrelated books, personal items that trigger memories or emotions should be stored elsewhere. Your workspace is not a place for decoration or personal expression. It's a tool designed for one purpose: helping you think clearly and work effectively. Lighting matters more than most people realize. Natural light is ideal, but if that's not available, you want bright, consistent illumination that doesn't create shadows or glare. Poor lighting forces your brain to work harder to process visual information, which reduces the mental energy available for your actual work. Temperature control is equally important. If you're too hot or too cold, part of your mental processing is devoted to dealing with physical discomfort instead of focusing on your task. The ideal temperature for cognitive performance is usually between 68 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit. But the key is finding what works best for you and maintaining consistency. Sound environment requires careful attention. Some people work best in complete silence. Others need consistent background noise to mask intermittent distractions. The worst sound environment is one with irregular, unpredictable noises that repeatedly grab your attention. If you can't control the sounds around you, high-quality noise-canceling headphones are a worthwhile investment. Your digital fortress is even more critical than your physical one. This is because digital distractions are designed to be addictive. They're created by teams of psychologists and data scientists whose job is to capture and monetize your attention. You're not fighting against accidental distractions. You're fighting against sophisticated systems designed to hijack your mind. The first line of defense is notification management. Turn off every notification that isn't absolutely essential. This includes email notifications, social media alerts, news updates, and app notifications. These interruptions don't just steal the few seconds it takes to read them. They break your concentration and force you to use mental energy to refocus on your original task. Set specific times for checking messages and social media instead of being constantly available. Most successful people check email 2 or 3 times per day, not every few minutes. They have designated periods for social media consumption, not continuous scrolling throughout the day. They treat their attention like a valuable resource that needs to be protected and invested wisely. Website and application blocking software can be powerful tools for maintaining focus. During your designated deep work periods, block access to websites and applications that might tempt you away from your important work. This removes the willpower component from staying focused. Instead of constantly fighting the urge to check social media, you simply make it impossible. Phone management is crucial. Your smartphone is probably the most potent distraction device ever created. It needs to be treated with extreme caution. During focused work sessions, your phone should be in another room, turned off, or, at minimum, face down in silent mode. The mere presence of a smartphone, even when it's not being used, can reduce cognitive performance. Create technology-free zones and times. Your bedroom should be a place for rest, not screens. Your dining area should be for eating and conversation, not scrolling. You should have at least 1 hour each day, preferably in the morning, that's completely free from digital input. This gives your brain time to process information and generate insights without constant external stimulation. Physical barriers can be surprisingly effective. If you need to walk to another room to check social media, you're less likely to do it impulsively. If your phone is in a drawer instead of on your desk, it's less likely to capture your attention. Small physical obstacles can provide just enough friction to break automatic habits and give you space to make conscious choices about how to use your attention. The second layer of your mental fortress is cognitive training. Even with a perfectly designed environment, your mind will still generate its own distractions. Internal thoughts, worries, ideas, and emotions will arise and try to pull your attention away from your chosen focus. You need mental techniques for handling these internal distractions. Mindfulness meditation is one of the most effective methods for building this type of cognitive control. When you meditate, you practice noticing when your mind has wandered and gently redirecting it to your chosen focus point. This is exactly the skill you need for maintaining concentration during important work. Start with just 5 minutes per day of focused attention meditation. Sit comfortably. Choose a focus point, like your breath or a simple phrase, and maintain attention on that point. When your mind wanders, notice that it has wandered without judging yourself, and redirect your attention back to your focus point. This is mental exercise. And like physical exercise, it gets easier with consistent practice. Thought labeling is another powerful technique for managing internal distractions. When a distracting thought arises during focused work, instead of following the thought or fighting against it, simply label it and return to your task. If you start worrying about a conversation you had earlier, just think worrying and return to your work. If you start planning what to have for dinner, think planning and return to your work. This technique works because it acknowledges the thought without feeding it energy. When you try to suppress thoughts, they often become stronger. When you follow every thought that arises, you lose focus. But when you simply observe and label thoughts, they tend to fade naturally, leaving you free to maintain attention on what's important. The third layer of your mental fortress is energy management. Focus isn't just about attention control. It's also about having the mental energy necessary to sustain concentration over extended periods. If you're physically tired, mentally drained, or emotionally depleted, even the best focus techniques won't help you. Sleep is the foundation of mental performance. When you're sleep-deprived, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for executive functions like attention control, operates at reduced capacity. You become more impulsive, more distractible, and less able to maintain sustained focus. Most adults need 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night for optimal cognitive performance. Nutrition affects your ability to concentrate more than most people realize. Your brain consumes about 20% of your daily calories, and it's sensitive to fluctuations in blood sugar levels. Eating consistent, balanced meals helps maintain steady mental energy throughout the day. Avoiding sugar crashes and caffeine spikes helps maintain consistent focus capacity. Physical exercise, particularly cardiovascular exercise, enhances cognitive performance. Exercise increases blood flow to the brain, promotes the growth of new neural connections, and improves your brain's ability to focus and resist distractions. Even a short walk can help clear your mind and restore your ability to concentrate. Stress management is critical for maintaining focus. When you're stressed, your brain releases hormones that impair cognitive function and make you more reactive to distractions. Chronic stress literally shrinks the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for executive control. Regular stress reduction practices like deep breathing, meditation, or physical exercise help maintain the brain chemistry necessary for sustained focus. Building your mental fortress takes time and deliberate effort, but the investment pays enormous dividends. When you have systematic defenses against distraction, when your environment supports focus instead of undermining it, when your mind is trained to maintain attention on what matters most, you gain access to a level of mental performance that most people never experience. You become capable of sustained, high-quality thought that generates insights, solutions, and results that seem impossible to those operating from a scattered, reactive mental state. Chapter 6. The compound effect of concentrated thought. Here's what separates the truly successful from everyone else. It's not just that they can focus for a few minutes or even a few hours. It's that they understand the compound effect of concentrated thought. Every hour of deep, focused work doesn't just produce results for that hour. It builds cognitive momentum that makes the next hour even more productive. Think about it like compound interest in investing. When you invest money, you don't just earn returns on your original investment. You earn returns on your returns. Your money grows exponentially over time because each gain becomes the foundation for future gains. Focused thinking works exactly the same way. When you spend an hour in deep concentration, you're not just completing tasks. You're strengthening your focus muscle. You're building neural pathways that make future concentration easier. You're developing insights that inform future work. You're creating cognitive momentum that carries forward into everything else you do. But most people never experience this compound effect because they never sustain focus long enough to generate momentum. They work in 15-minute fragments, interrupted by distractions. They switch between tasks so frequently that they never build depth in any area. They mistake activity for productivity and wonder why their results don't improve over time. The compound effect of concentrated thought explains why some people seem to accomplish impossible amounts of high-quality work. They're not just working more hours. They're accessing multiplier effects that come from sustained mental engagement. Each day of focused work makes them capable of even higher levels of performance the next day. Consider what happens when you spend 3 uninterrupted hours working on a complex problem. The first 30 minutes might feel difficult as your mind settles into the work. The second 30 minutes become easier as you gain momentum. By the second hour, you're operating at a higher cognitive level than when you started. By the third hour, you're making connections and generating insights that wouldn't have been possible in scattered 15-minute sessions. This deep engagement doesn't just solve the immediate problem. It trains your brain to handle complexity. It builds your capacity for sustained thinking. It develops pattern recognition that helps you solve future problems faster. The cognitive gains compound over time, making you progressively more capable of handling difficult challenges. Successful entrepreneurs understand this intuitively. They don't just work on their businesses in spare moments between other activities. They block out substantial periods for strategic thinking, for deep problem solving, for creative innovation. They know that breakthrough ideas and game-changing strategies don't emerge from fragmented attention. They come from sustained, focused engagement with important challenges. The same principle applies to skill development. When you practice something with complete focus for extended periods, you don't just improve at that specific skill. You improve your ability to learn. You develop more sophisticated mental models. You build cognitive flexibility that transfers to other areas. Every hour of focused practice makes future learning more efficient. This is why the gap between focused and unfocused people keeps growing over time. The focused individuals are building compound cognitive returns. They're getting better at focusing, which allows them to focus longer, which generates even better results, which motivates them to focus more. It's a positive feedback loop that creates exponential improvement over time. Meanwhile, unfocused people are caught in a negative feedback loop. Their scattered attention produces mediocre results, which frustrates them and makes focus feel even more difficult. They develop habits of distraction that make sustained attention nearly impossible. Instead of compound returns, they experience compound losses in cognitive capacity. Chapter 7. Advanced Flow State Protocols for Peak Mental Performance. Flow state isn't just a nice feeling. It's the highest level of human performance, where your cognitive abilities operate at maximum capacity. In flow, you can accomplish more in 2 hours than most people accomplish in 2 days. But accessing flow isn't random. It follows specific principles that you can learn and apply systematically. The first requirement for flow is complete presence. You cannot enter a flow state while part of your mind is elsewhere. This means eliminating not just external distractions, but internal ones as well. No part of your consciousness can be occupied with worries about the future, regrets about the past, or concerns about anything other than the immediate task. This level of presence requires preparation. Before you begin any important work session, spend 5 minutes clearing your mental space. Acknowledge any concerns or distractions, write them down if necessary, and consciously set them aside. Tell your mind that this is protected time, devoted entirely to the task at hand. This mental preparation dramatically increases your chances of entering flow. The second requirement is the challenge-skill balance. Flow occurs when the difficulty of your task perfectly matches your current abilities. If the task is too easy, you become bored. If it's too difficult, you become anxious. But when the challenge stretches your abilities without overwhelming them, flow becomes possible. This means you need to continuously calibrate your challenges as your skills improve. What put you in flow last month might be too easy today. You need to progressively increase difficulty to maintain that sweet spot where you're stretched but not stressed, challenged but not overwhelmed. Most people never find this balance because they either choose tasks that are too comfortable or too overwhelming. They stay in their comfort zone, working on things they've already mastered, and wonder why they feel bored and unmotivated. Or they bite off more than they can chew, feel overwhelmed, and abandon the work entirely. Flow requires finding the narrow band between these extremes. The third requirement is immediate feedback. You need to know in real time whether you're succeeding or failing, whether you're on track or off course. Delayed feedback breaks flow because part of your mind becomes occupied with uncertainty about your performance. This means structuring your work to provide continuous feedback loops. If you're writing, you can see immediately whether your words are expressing your ideas clearly. If you're solving problems, you can test solutions quickly to see if they work. If you're learning new skills, you can practice in ways that reveal mistakes immediately so you can correct them. Many people sabotage their flow potential by working on projects with vague goals and delayed feedback. They spend weeks on initiatives without knowing whether they're making progress. This uncertainty creates anxiety and prevents the total engagement necessary for flow states. The fourth requirement is intrinsic motivation. Flow is impossible when you're working solely for external rewards or to avoid punishments. You need to find genuine interest and satisfaction in the work itself. This doesn't mean every task needs to be your passion, but you need to connect with some aspect of the work that engages your natural curiosity or desire for mastery. This is why it's crucial to understand what type of challenges naturally energize you. Some people are motivated by creative problems that require innovative solutions. Others are energized by analytical challenges that require systematic thinking. Still others are motivated by social challenges that require understanding and influencing people. Understanding your natural motivational patterns helps you structure work in ways that support flow. Advanced flow practitioners don't wait for motivation to strike. They engineer it by connecting their daily tasks to larger purposes that matter to them. They find ways to make routine work more challenging and interesting. They create games and competitions with themselves to maintain engagement with necessary but potentially boring tasks. The fifth requirement is clear goals with well-defined success criteria. Vague objectives kill flow because part of your mind remains uncertain about what you're trying to accomplish. You need crystal clear clarity about what success looks like for any given work session. This means breaking large projects into specific, measurable outcomes for each work session. Instead of work on presentation, your goal should be complete the introduction section with 3 key points and supporting data. Instead of improve marketing, it should be analyze last quarter's campaign performance and identify 2 optimization opportunities. Clear goals eliminate internal uncertainty and allow all of your mental resources to focus on execution. When you know exactly what you're trying to accomplish, your mind can fully engage with how to accomplish it. Advanced flow engineering involves creating ritual and routine that consistently produce the mental conditions necessary for peak performance. This might include specific music that signals to your brain that it's time for deep work. It might include physical warm-up exercises that prepare your mind for concentration. It might include breathing techniques that shift your nervous system into an optimal state for sustained focus. The most productive people don't rely on inspiration or mood to access flow states. They have systematic approaches that reliably produce the psychological conditions where flow becomes possible. They treat flow as a skill that can be developed rather than a random occurrence that sometimes happens by accident. Chapter 8. Focus specialization for different types of mental work. Not all mental work requires the same type of focus. Creative work demands a different cognitive approach than analytical work. Strategic thinking requires different mental conditions than tactical execution. Most people use the same unfocused approach for all types of thinking and wonder why they're not more effective. Understanding the different modes of mental work and matching your focus style to your task requirements can dramatically improve both the quality and efficiency of your thinking. This is about becoming a specialist in cognitive performance, using the right mental tool for each type of challenge. Creative focus, divergent thinking, and open awareness. Creative work requires generating new ideas, making novel connections, and exploring possibilities that don't yet exist. This type of thinking benefits from a more relaxed, open style of attention that allows your mind to make unexpected connections between seemingly unrelated concepts. Creative focus is less about intense concentration and more about sustained, gentle attention that allows ideas to emerge naturally. It's like the difference between a laser beam and ambient light. Analytical work benefits from laser-like focus, but creative work often benefits from softer, broader awareness that can notice subtle patterns and possibilities. The environment for creative focus should support exploration and experimentation. Some visual stimulation can be helpful for creative work, unlike analytical work, where it might be distracting. Natural settings, inspiring artwork, or varied textures can provide input for creative thinking. Music, particularly instrumental music, can enhance creative flow for many people. Creative focus sessions should be longer and less structured than analytical sessions. You need time for ideas to percolate and develop. Rushing creative work often produces superficial results. The best creative insights often emerge after extended periods of gentle engagement with a challenge, when your subconscious has time to process information and generate novel solutions. Physical movement can enhance creative thinking. Many breakthrough ideas occur during walks, when the rhythm of walking and the change of scenery stimulate different patterns of neural activity. Some of history's greatest thinkers, from Charles Darwin to Steve Jobs, were famous for their walking meetings and thinking walks. Analytical focus, convergent thinking and precision. Attention. Analytical work requires evaluating information, identifying patterns, solving problems with clear parameters, and making logical deductions. This type of thinking benefits from intense, precise focus that can examine details without being distracted by irrelevant information. Analytical focus is about convergent thinking, where you narrow your attention to specific elements and examine them with surgical precision. This requires a clean environment with minimal distractions, consistent lighting that doesn't strain your eyes, and tools that support systematic analysis. For analytical work, complete silence or consistent background noise is usually ideal. Intermittent sounds that grab your attention can break the concentrated thought necessary for detailed analysis. Your workspace should be organized so that everything you need is easily accessible without breaking your concentration. Analytical focus sessions can be shorter but more intense than creative sessions. Your mind can only sustain high-precision attention for limited periods before mental fatigue sets in. Working in focus sprints with brief recovery periods often produces better analytical results than trying to maintain peak concentration for hours. Tools and systems become more important for analytical work than for creative work. Spreadsheets, databases, analytical frameworks, and systematic methodologies help structure your thinking and prevent you from overlooking important details. The goal is to augment your analytical capabilities with external tools that extend your cognitive capacity. Strategic focus, systems thinking, and pattern recognition. Strategic thinking requires understanding complex relationships, anticipating consequences, and making decisions with incomplete information. This type of thinking benefits from a broad perspective that can see patterns across different domains and time horizons. Strategic focus is about connecting the dots between seemingly separate pieces of information. It requires stepping back from immediate details to see larger patterns and trends. This often requires alternating between focused analysis of specific elements and broad reflection on how those elements fit together. The environment for strategic thinking should support reflection and contemplation. This might mean working in a different location than your usual workspace. Perhaps somewhere that provides a broader perspective, literally as well as figuratively. Many strategic thinkers find that elevated locations or rooms with expansive views help stimulate systems-level thinking. Strategic focus sessions need flexibility in timing and structure. Important insights about complex systems often emerge during quiet moments when you're not actively trying to solve problems. This is why many executives schedule thinking time without specific agendas, allowing their minds to process and integrate information from various sources. Walking meetings and informal discussions can be particularly valuable for strategic thinking. The relaxed pace and physical movement can stimulate insights that don't emerge during more structured analytical sessions. Some of the most important strategic decisions are made during conversations that don't feel like formal work sessions. Execution focus, single-point concentration, and systematic implementation. Execution work requires translating plans into action, maintaining consistency over time, and paying attention to details that ensure quality results. This type of thinking benefits from disciplined, systematic focus that can maintain quality standards while working efficiently. Execution focus is about sustained attention to process rather than outcome. It's about maintaining quality and consistency even when the work becomes routine. This requires a different type of mental discipline than creative or strategic work, where the thinking itself provides stimulation. The environment for execution work should minimize variability and support consistent performance. This means standardized tools, organized workflows, and minimal decisions about how to approach each task. The goal is to eliminate cognitive load from process decisions so all your mental energy can be devoted to quality execution. Execution focus benefits from rhythm and routine. Many people find that music with a consistent beat helps maintain steady productivity during execution work. Others prefer complete silence that allows them to hear their internal rhythm of work. The key is finding what supports sustained, quality performance for you. Batch processing similar tasks can dramatically improve execution efficiency. Instead of switching between different types of work throughout the day, grouping similar activities reduces task switching costs and allows you to maintain execution focus for longer periods. This might mean dedicating specific days or times to particular types of execution work. Chapter 9. The Neuroplasticity Advantage and Long-Term Mental Transformation. Your brain is not fixed. Every thought you think, every action you take, every focused decision you make is literally reshaping your neural architecture. This is neuroplasticity, and it's the key to understanding why some people can completely transform their mental capabilities, while others remain stuck in the same patterns for years. Most people dramatically underestimate their capacity for cognitive change. They think that their attention span, their ability to focus, their mental discipline are fixed traits that can't be significantly improved. This is completely false. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on how you use it, and you can deliberately direct this rewiring process to enhance your mental performance. Every time you choose to maintain focus instead of giving in to distraction, you strengthen the neural pathways that support sustained attention. Every time you resist the urge to check your phone during important work, you build mental discipline. Every time you push through cognitive fatigue to maintain concentration, you expand your capacity for focused thinking. But the reverse is also true. Every time you give in to distraction, you strengthen the neural pathways that make you more distractible. Every time you let your mind wander during important tasks, you train your brain to be unfocused. Every time you choose immediate gratification over sustained effort, you make it harder to concentrate in the future. This means that your current level of focus is not your permanent level. It's simply the result of how you've been training your brain up to this point. If you've been training it for distraction, that's what you've gotten. But if you start training it for focus, that's what you'll develop. The choice is entirely yours. The science behind this is remarkable. Brain imaging studies show that people who engage in sustained attention practices actually develop thicker cortexes in the areas associated with focus and cognitive control. Meditation practitioners have larger prefrontal cortexes, the brain region responsible for executive functions like attention regulation and impulse control. But you don't need to meditate for hours to access these benefits. Even modest amounts of focused attention practice can produce measurable changes in brain structure. Studies show improvements in attention and cognitive control after just 8 weeks of brief daily meditation practice. The key is consistency over intensity. Practicing focused attention for 20 minutes every day produces better results than practicing for 3 hours once per week. This is because neuroplasticity responds to repetition over time, not to single intense sessions. Every day you practice, you're reinforcing the neural changes that support better focus. This has profound implications for how you approach mental development. Instead of waiting for motivation or inspiration to strike, you can systematically build the cognitive capabilities you want through deliberate practice. You can literally design your mental capabilities by choosing how to use your attention day after day. The compound effect of neuroplasticity explains why some people seem to have unlimited mental energy and focus, while others struggle with basic concentration. The high performers have been unknowingly training their brains for peak performance through years of focused work habits. The low performers have been unknowingly training their brains for distraction through years of scattered attention patterns. But here's the encouraging news. Neuroplasticity continues throughout your entire life. Your brain retains the ability to rewire itself regardless of your age or your current level of focus. It's never too late to start building better cognitive capabilities. The brain you have today is not the brain you have to keep tomorrow. The most dramatic changes occur in the first few months of consistent practice. Many people report significant improvements in their ability to concentrate within just a few weeks of implementing focused attention practices. This is because the brain prioritizes changes that are repeated consistently. When you practice focus every day, your brain treats this as important and allocates resources to supporting these capabilities. Advanced practitioners report that focused attention becomes progressively easier over time. What once required significant willpower eventually becomes natural and automatic. They reach a point where sustained concentration feels effortless, where deep work becomes their default mode rather than something they have to force themselves to do. This transformation extends beyond just work performance. People who develop strong focus capabilities report improvements in their relationships, their emotional regulation, their decision-making, and their overall life satisfaction. This is because attention control is a fundamental mental skill that influences every other aspect of cognitive performance. The long-term vision for your mental development should be complete cognitive autonomy. This means having full control over where you direct your mental resources when you enter peak performance states, and how you respond to distractions and challenges. Instead of being reactive to environmental stimuli, you become proactive in directing your mental energy toward what matters most. This level of mental mastery doesn't happen overnight, but it is achievable for anyone willing to invest in systematic cognitive training. The brain changes you need are well within the normal range of human neuroplasticity. You don't need special genetics or exceptional talent. You just need consistency, patience, and a systematic approach to mental development. Chapter 10. Sustaining peak, focus, under pressure, and adversity. The true test of your mental control isn't when everything is perfect. It's when everything is falling apart. Anyone can focus in ideal conditions with no distractions and unlimited time. But can you maintain clarity of thought when you're under deadline pressure? Can you think strategically when you're stressed? Can you make good decisions when everything seems to be going wrong? This is where most people's focus falls apart. They develop decent concentration skills during calm periods, but the moment pressure increases or adversity strikes, their mental discipline collapses. They revert to reactive thinking, scattered attention, and poor decision-making exactly when they need focus the most. Elite performers are different. They've learned to maintain focus not despite pressure and adversity, but because of it. They understand that challenging situations require even better mental control, not worse. They've developed systems for sustaining peak cognitive performance when the stakes are highest and the conditions are most difficult. The first principle of pressure focus is understanding that stress is not the enemy of peak performance. It's the fuel. Optimal performance occurs at moderate levels of arousal and challenge. No stress means no urgency, no energy, no peak performance. Too much stress overwhelms your cognitive systems and impairs thinking. But the right amount of stress enhances focus, increases energy, and sharpens decision-making. The key is learning to use stress as a performance enhancer rather than letting it become a performance inhibitor. This starts with reframing your relationship with pressure situations. Instead of seeing them as threats to be avoided, see them as opportunities to demonstrate your capabilities. Instead of hoping for easy conditions, embrace challenging conditions as chances to excel. This reframe changes your physiology. When you perceive stress as enhancing rather than threatening, your body produces a different hormonal response. Instead of the cortisol and adrenaline that impair cognitive function, you produce hormones that enhance focus and decision-making. The same situation can either help or hurt your performance depending on how you interpret it. The second principle is preparation over reaction. Most people wait until they're under pressure to figure out how to handle it. By then, it's too late. Their cognitive resources are already compromised by stress, and they don't have the mental clarity to implement new strategies. Elite performers prepare for pressure situations during calm periods. They practice their focus techniques when they don't need them. So, these techniques are automatic when they do need them. They rehearse how they'll respond to various challenging scenarios, so they have tested protocols to follow when real challenges arise. This includes physical preparation. Your body's response to stress significantly affects your cognitive performance. If you're physically tense, breathing shallowly, or experiencing stress symptoms, your brain doesn't receive optimal oxygen and glucose supplies. Simple breathing techniques, progressive muscle relaxation, and posture adjustments can maintain the physical conditions necessary for clear thinking under pressure. Mental rehearsal is equally important. Visualization isn't just for athletes. It's for anyone who wants to perform well under pressure. Spend time mentally rehearsing how you'll respond to challenging situations. See yourself maintaining focus despite distractions. Imagine yourself making good decisions despite time pressure. Feel yourself remaining calm and clear despite adversity. This mental practice creates neural pathways that support peak performance under stress. When you encounter similar situations in reality, your brain has practiced patterns to follow. Instead of panicking or reverting to poor habits, you automatically access the behaviors you've rehearsed. The third principle is process focus over outcome focus. When you're under pressure, it's natural to become fixated on results, consequences, and what might go wrong. This outcome focus actually impairs performance because it diverts attention from the task at hand to worry about future consequences. Elite performers maintain process focus even under extreme pressure. They concentrate on executing the next right action rather than worrying about final results. They focus on what they can control in the present moment rather than outcomes they can't directly control. This shift in focus has immediate performance benefits. When your attention is fully engaged with current tasks, you perform those tasks better. When you're worried about outcomes, you perform current tasks worse. The irony is that focusing on process rather than outcomes actually produces better outcomes. Process focus also provides emotional regulation benefits. It's difficult to be anxious about the future when you're completely absorbed in present moment tasks. It's hard to be overwhelmed by the magnitude of challenges when you're focused on the next specific action you need to take. The fourth principle is energy management under stress. Pressure situations are cognitively expensive. They require more mental energy than normal conditions. If you don't manage your energy carefully, you'll burn out before you complete important tasks. This means being even more protective of your cognitive resources during high-pressure periods. Eliminate non-essential decisions. Delegate everything that doesn't require your specific expertise. Say no to additional commitments that don't directly support your priority objectives. It also means being more systematic about recovery and renewal. High-pressure periods require more recovery time, not less. Many people make the mistake of cutting out rest and renewal activities when they're under pressure, thinking they need to devote every minute to work. This backfires because depleted cognitive resources produce poor quality work that often needs to be redone. Short recovery periods throughout high-pressure days can maintain cognitive performance much better than trying to power through without breaks. Even 5-minute periods of deep breathing, brief walks, or mental reset activities can restore mental energy and maintain focus quality. The fifth principle is maintaining long-term perspective during short-term challenges. Pressure situations can create tunnel vision, where immediate problems seem much larger and more significant than they actually are. This distorted perspective often leads to poor decisions and unnecessary stress. Maintaining perspective means regularly stepping back from immediate challenges to consider how they fit into larger contexts. Will this crisis matter in 5 years? Are there opportunities hidden within current difficulties? What can you learn from this challenging period that will make you stronger in the future? This broader perspective doesn't minimize real challenges or suggest that everything will work out automatically, but it prevents you from making decisions based on temporary emotional states or distorted thinking caused by stress. It helps you respond to challenges strategically rather than just reactively. Chapter 11. The Integration Protocol for Seamless Focus Mastery. You now understand the principles of mental control, but understanding and implementation are two completely different things. Most people learn powerful focus techniques and then fail to integrate them into their daily lives. They know what to do, but don't do it consistently. They have the knowledge but lack the systematic approach to turn that knowledge into automatic behavior. This is where most focus training fails. People treat concentration techniques like interesting information rather than skills that require systematic development. They read about focus, think about focus, but never actually build focus into their operating system. The integration protocol changes this by providing a systematic method for embedding focus mastery into every aspect of your life. The first phase of integration is habit stacking. This means attaching new focus practices to existing behaviors that are already automatic. Instead of trying to remember to practice focus techniques at random times throughout the day, you link them to activities you already do without thinking. For example, every time you sit down at your computer, you spend 30 seconds doing a focus preparation ritual. Every time you check your email, you first take 3 conscious breaths to center your attention. Every time you start a new task, you spend 10 seconds clarifying your objective and removing potential distractions from your workspace. These micro-practices seem insignificant individually, but they compound over time to create a foundation of consistent focus habits. You're not trying to change everything at once. You're gradually weaving focus practices into your existing routine until they become as automatic as brushing your teeth. The second phase is environmental automation. This means designing your spaces and systems so that focused behavior becomes the path of least resistance. Most people fight against their environment every time they want to concentrate. They have to overcome distractions, find the right tools, and create focus conditions from scratch every time they want to do important work. Integration means reversing this dynamic. Your environment should automatically support focus and require effort to become distracted. This means default settings on all your devices that minimize notifications and distractions. It means workspaces that are pre-organized for concentration. It means tools and resources that are immediately available when you need to focus and inconvenient to access when you want to procrastinate. Think of this as engineering your environment to make your future self more likely to succeed. When focus requires minimal effort and distraction requires significant effort, you naturally gravitate toward better choices. You're not relying on willpower or motivation. You're using intelligent design to guide your behavior toward what you actually want to accomplish. The third phase is cognitive integration, which means developing metacognitive awareness of your mental state throughout the day. This is the ability to monitor your own thinking, to notice when your focus is sharp or scattered, and to make real-time adjustments to optimize your cognitive performance. Most people are unconscious of their mental state. They don't notice when their attention starts to wander until they've been distracted for minutes or even hours. They don't recognize the early signs of cognitive fatigue until their thinking has already become sluggish and ineffective. They work against their natural mental rhythms instead of leveraging them. Cognitive integration means developing the awareness to recognize different mental states and the skill to shift between them deliberately. You learn to notice when you're in a state that's perfect for creative work versus analytical work versus strategic thinking. You develop the ability to recognize when you need a break before your performance deteriorates. You become skilled at entering flow states on demand rather than waiting for them to happen randomly. This requires developing what psychologists call metacognitive awareness, which is essentially the ability to observe your own thinking processes. You can practice this throughout the day by periodically asking yourself questions like, how clear is my thinking right now? What is my current level of focus? What type of mental work would be most appropriate for my current state? The fourth phase is social integration, which means aligning your relationships and commitments with your focus priorities. Other people can either support or sabotage your mental development, often without realizing it. Friends who constantly interrupt you during work hours, family members who don't respect your focus time, colleagues who expect immediate responses to non-urgent communications. Social integration means having conversations about your focus priorities and establishing boundaries that protect your cognitive resources. This isn't about being antisocial or unavailable. It's about being strategic about when and how you engage with others, so you can be fully present when you choose to be social and fully focused when you choose to work. This might mean establishing specific hours when you're available for non-urgent communications and other hours when you're not. It might mean explaining to people why you don't respond to messages immediately and when they can expect responses. It might mean creating physical or temporal boundaries around your most important work. The goal is to eliminate the constant background anxiety that comes from feeling like you should always be available to everyone. When you have clear boundaries and systems for managing social interactions, you can focus completely during work time and connect completely during social time. The fifth phase is temporal integration, which means designing your schedule to support sustained focus rather than fragmented attention. Most people's schedules are focus killers. They switch between different types of work every hour, interrupt deep work with meetings, and fragment their attention across multiple priorities throughout the day. Temporal integration means batching similar activities, protecting blocks of time for deep work, and creating daily and weekly rhythms that support sustained cognitive performance. This might mean dedicating entire mornings to creative work, afternoons to communication and meetings, and evenings to planning and reflection. It also means understanding your personal cognitive rhythms and aligning your most important work with your peak mental energy periods. Some people think most clearly first thing in the morning. Others hit their cognitive peak in the late morning or early afternoon. Still, others do their best thinking in the evening. The key is identifying your patterns and protecting those high-energy periods for your most important work. Temporal integration also involves creating recovery rhythms that prevent cognitive burnout. This means short breaks throughout focused work sessions, longer recovery periods between intense work days, and regular periods of complete mental rest, where you don't engage in any cognitively demanding activities. The integration protocol isn't something you implement all at once. It's a systematic process of gradually embedding focus mastery into every aspect of your life until concentrated attention becomes your default mode rather than something you have to consciously activate. When this integration is complete, peak mental performance becomes effortless and automatic rather than something you have to force. Chapter 12. The Psychology of Sustained Mental Excellence. The difference between people who achieve temporary focus improvements and those who sustain peak mental performance for decades comes down to psychology, not technique. Most focus training fails because it ignores the psychological foundations that make sustained excellence possible. You can learn the best concentration techniques in the world, but if you don't address the deeper psychological patterns that drive behavior, you'll eventually revert to old habits. Sustained mental excellence requires understanding and working with your psychological drives rather than against them. This means identifying what truly motivates you to maintain focus, what unconsciously sabotages your concentration efforts, and what psychological conditions support long-term commitment to mental development. The first psychological foundation is intrinsic motivation alignment. Most people try to improve their focus for external reasons. They want to be more productive so their boss will be impressed. They want to accomplish more so they'll feel successful compared to others. They want to develop concentration skills because they think they should, not because they genuinely want to. External motivation works temporarily. but it doesn't sustain long-term behavior change. When the external pressure is removed, the behavior disappears. When the novelty wears off, the motivation fades. When immediate results aren't visible, the effort stops. Intrinsic motivation is different. It comes from genuine interest, personal satisfaction, and internal drive for mastery. When you're intrinsically motivated to develop focus, you practice concentration techniques because you find the process inherently rewarding. You value mental clarity for its own sake, not just for the results it produces. This means connecting your focus development to deeper values and interests. If you value creativity, focus on how concentration enhances your creative capabilities. If you value contribution, focus on how mental clarity allows you to help others more effectively. If you value learning, focus on how sustained attention accelerates skill development. The psychological research is clear. Intrinsically motivated behavior is more persistent, more resilient to obstacles, and more likely to continue even when external rewards are removed. People who develop lasting focus skills are those who find genuine satisfaction in the process of mental training itself. The second psychological foundation is identity integration. Most people see focus techniques as something they do rather than something they are. They practice concentration exercises but don't see themselves as focused people. They use productivity systems but don't identify as highly productive individuals. This identity gap creates internal resistance to sustained change. Part of their self-concept is fighting against the new behaviors they're trying to develop. They're trying to act like a focused person while still thinking of themselves as someone who struggles with concentration. This internal conflict eventually wins, and they revert to behaviors that match their self-image. Identity integration means gradually shifting your self-concept to align with the mental capabilities you want to develop. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to get better at focusing," you start thinking, "I am someone who values and maintains mental clarity." Instead of, "I'm working on my concentration," you think, "I am a person who has developed strong cognitive control." This isn't positive thinking or self-deception. It's a deliberate process of updating your self-concept based on evidence from your changing behavior. Every time you choose focus over distraction, you're providing evidence that you are becoming a more focused person. Every time you maintain attention despite obstacles, you're proving to yourself that you have mental discipline. The identity shift happens gradually through consistent action, but it accelerates when you consciously acknowledge and integrate these new capabilities into your self-concept. You start to see yourself differently, and this new identity naturally supports behaviors that are consistent with who you now believe yourself to be. The third psychological foundation is cognitive flexibility about setbacks and obstacles. Most people have an all-or-nothing mentality about focus development. They expect linear progress and get discouraged when they have bad days or periods of scattered attention. They interpret temporary setbacks as evidence that they're not cut out for sustained focus, and they abandon their development efforts. This perfectionist mindset is psychologically devastating for long-term progress. Real focus development involves fluctuations, setbacks, and periods of apparent stagnation. Your brain is rewiring itself, and this process isn't always smooth or predictable. Some days your concentration will be excellent, others will be challenging, and many will be somewhere in between. Psychological resilience means expecting this variability and not interpreting temporary difficulties as permanent failures. It means understanding that setbacks are part of the development process, not evidence that the process isn't working. It means maintaining long-term perspective, even during short-term challenges. This also means developing metacognitive awareness about your psychological patterns. Most people have predictable triggers that cause their focus to deteriorate. Certain types of stress, particular emotional states, specific environmental conditions, or relationship conflicts that consistently undermine their concentration efforts. Instead of being surprised by these patterns every time they occur, you can learn to anticipate and prepare for them. You can develop specific strategies for maintaining focus during your most challenging psychological states. You can create support systems that help you navigate difficult periods without abandoning your mental development goals. The fourth psychological foundation is sustainable challenge calibration. Many people approach focus development with unsustainable intensity. They try to transform their concentration abilities overnight through extreme measures. They commit to meditation practices that require hours per day, work schedules that eliminate all breaks, or focus regimens that are so demanding they can't maintain them for more than a few weeks. This approach almost always backfires. Extreme measures create psychological resistance and eventual burnout. When you can't sustain the intensity you've committed to, you feel like a failure and often abandon the entire focus development process. Sustainable challenge means finding the level of effort that stretches your capabilities without overwhelming your psychological resources. This is usually less intense than what motivation gurus recommend, but it's infinitely more effective because you can maintain it consistently over time. The goal is gradual, continuous improvement rather than dramatic transformation. Small improvements compounded over months and years produce much better results than intense efforts that burn out after a few weeks. This requires patience and long-term thinking, but it leads to genuine, lasting change in your mental capabilities. The fifth psychological foundation is purpose, connection. Focused development can feel abstract and disconnected from what you really care about. When concentration techniques feel like another item on your to-do list rather than a means to accomplish what matters most to you, maintaining motivation becomes difficult. Purpose connection means clearly linking your focused development to outcomes and experiences that you genuinely value. How will better concentration help you be a better parent, partner, or friend? How will sustained attention enhance your ability to contribute to causes you care about? How will mental clarity help you create the kind of life you actually want to live? These connections need to be specific and personal, not generic or borrowed from other people's values. The purpose that motivates sustained effort is the purpose that comes from your own deep reflection about what you want your life to be about. When focused development is connected to genuine purpose, the daily discipline required becomes meaningful rather than burdensome. You're not practicing concentration techniques because you should. You're developing mental skills because they serve something you deeply care about. Chapter 13. Advanced Concentration Techniques for Elite Mental Performance. Now that you understand the foundations and psychology of focus mastery, it's time for the advanced techniques that separate elite mental performers from everyone else. These are not beginner practices. They require a foundation of basic concentration skills and the psychological commitment to push beyond comfortable limits, but when mastered, they provide access to levels of mental performance that most people never experience. The first advanced technique is micro-recovery attention cycling. Most people think of focus as something you turn on and try to maintain for as long as possible. But elite performers understand that attention is more like a muscle that benefits from strategic rest periods even during focused work sessions. Micro-recovery cycling involves deliberately pulsing your attention intensity throughout work sessions. Instead of trying to maintain peak concentration for hours, you alternate between periods of maximum focus and brief moments of controlled mental relaxation. This might mean 90 seconds of intense concentration, followed by 10 seconds of soft focus, repeated throughout your work session. The recovery periods aren't breaks from work. They're moments where you maintain awareness of your task while allowing your concentration mechanisms to briefly recharge. You might take a conscious breath, briefly shift your visual focus, or momentarily relax your mental effort while staying engaged with your work. This technique requires precise timing and awareness. You need to catch the early signs of attention fatigue before your focus deteriorates significantly. Most people wait until their concentration has already declined before taking breaks. Micro-recovery cycling means refreshing your attention before it needs refreshing. Elite performers report that this approach allows them to maintain high-quality focus for much longer periods than continuous concentration attempts. The brief recovery periods prevent the cognitive fatigue that usually forces longer breaks and keeps attention quality consistently high. The second advanced technique is attention anchoring under distraction. Basic focus training happens in controlled environments with minimal distractions. Advanced focus training deliberately introduces distractions to build concentration skills that work in real-world conditions. Attention anchoring means developing the ability to maintain focus on your chosen object of attention, while distractions are actively trying to pull your attention elsewhere. This isn't about eliminating distractions. It's about maintaining concentration despite their presence. You can practice this by gradually introducing controlled distractions during focus sessions. Start with subtle background sounds and work up to more challenging interruptions. Practice maintaining attention on your work while people are talking nearby, while notifications are going off, while multiple things are competing for your attention. The goal isn't to ignore distractions completely. It's to maintain primary attention on your chosen focus while having peripheral awareness of distracting stimuli without being hijacked by them. You acknowledge the distractions without allowing them to fragment your concentration. This skill is essential for real-world performance. Most of your important work won't happen in perfect conditions with no interruptions. Advanced concentration means being able to maintain focus quality even when external conditions are challenging. Elite performers often report that their ability to concentrate actually improves in moderately distracting environments because the challenge stimulates higher levels of attention. They've trained their focus skills to be resilient and adaptive rather than dependent on perfect conditions. The third advanced technique is cognitive load optimization. This involves understanding how different mental tasks consume cognitive resources and strategically managing your mental energy to maximize overall performance. Different types of thinking require different amounts of mental energy. Creative brainstorming is cognitively expensive, but doesn't require sustained concentration. Analytical problem-solving requires intense focus, but uses different cognitive resources than creative work. Communication and social interaction consume mental energy, but in different ways than solitary analytical tasks. Cognitive load optimization means sequencing your daily activities to make optimal use of your available mental energy. This might mean doing your most cognitively demanding work when your mental energy is highest, batching similar types of tasks to minimize cognitive switching costs, and alternating between high-energy and lower-energy activities to maintain consistent performance throughout the day. It also means understanding how different environmental factors affect your cognitive load. Some sounds reduce your available mental energy for complex tasks. Certain visual environments require more cognitive processing power. Temperature, lighting, and air quality all affect how much mental energy you have available for focused work. Advanced practitioners become extremely sensitive to these factors and make real-time adjustments to optimize their cognitive performance. They might change locations when they need different types of thinking. They might adjust their environment when they notice their mental energy declining. They might switch tasks when they recognize that their current cognitive state isn't optimal for their intended work. The fourth advanced technique is flow state stacking. Instead of experiencing flow as isolated peak performance episodes, advanced practitioners learn to link multiple flow states together to create extended periods of exceptional mental performance. Flow state stacking requires understanding the conditions that help you exit flow gracefully and re-enter it quickly. Most people crash when they come out of flow states. They lose momentum and have difficulty accessing peak performance again. This happens because they don't manage the transition between flow and non-flow states strategically. Stacking involves creating buffer periods between flow sessions where you maintain elevated attention without the full intensity of flow. During these transition periods, you might do less demanding tasks that keep your mind engaged while allowing your peak performance systems to rest briefly. You also learn to prepare for re-entry into flow states by creating consistent rituals and environmental conditions that reliably trigger flow. This might include specific music, particular physical positions, certain breathing patterns, or mental preparation routines that signal to your brain that it's time to enter peak performance mode. Advanced practitioners report being able to maintain elevated performance for entire days by stacking multiple flow sessions with strategic transition periods. This allows them to accomplish extraordinary amounts of high-quality work while maintaining the sense of effortless engagement that characterizes flow states. The fifth advanced technique is attention granularity control. This involves developing the ability to adjust the scope and intensity of your attention with precision based on task requirements. Some work requires broad, diffuse attention that can notice patterns across wide fields of information. Other tasks require narrow, intense focus on specific details. Most people have one default attention style and try to use it for all types of work, which reduces their effectiveness on tasks that require different attention approaches. Attention granularity control means developing multiple attention styles and the ability to switch between them deliberately. You learn when to use broad scanning attention, when to use narrow analytical focus, when to use creative, divergent attention, and when to use systematic, sequential attention. This also includes developing the ability to adjust attention intensity based on task difficulty and importance. Routine tasks might require only moderate attention, while complex problem-solving might require maximum concentration. Learning to calibrate your attention investment to match task requirements prevents both underperformance and unnecessary mental fatigue. Advanced practitioners describe this as having multiple attention settings that they can access on demand. They might use broad, relaxed attention for initial brainstorming, then switch to narrow, intense focus for detailed analysis. Then shift to systematic scanning attention for quality checking their work. The sixth advanced technique is metacognitive performance monitoring. This involves developing real-time awareness of your cognitive performance and the ability to make immediate adjustments to optimize your mental effectiveness. Most people are unconscious of their cognitive performance until it has already declined significantly. They don't notice when their thinking becomes less clear, their focus starts to waver, or their decision-making becomes impaired. By the time they recognize these changes, they've already spent significant time working at reduced capacity. Metacognitive monitoring means developing the ability to track your cognitive performance continuously and recognize the early signs of declining effectiveness. You learn to notice when your attention starts to fragment, when your thinking becomes less precise, when your mental energy begins to decline. This awareness allows you to make proactive adjustments before your performance deteriorates. You might take a brief recovery break when you notice early signs of fatigue. You might change your working environment when you recognize that your current conditions aren't supporting optimal thinking. You might switch to different types of tasks when you notice that your current cognitive state isn't well suited for your intended work. Advanced practitioners develop the ability to maintain peak performance for extended periods by making continuous micro-adjustments based on real-time performance feedback. They become extremely sensitive to their cognitive state and skilled at maintaining optimal conditions for sustained mental excellence. Chapter 14. Maintaining peak focus in a world designed for distraction. The modern world is not neutral about your attention. It is actively, systematically, and ruthlessly engineered to fragment your focus and monetize your distraction. Every app on your phone, every website you visit, every digital platform you engage with has been designed by teams of behavioral scientists whose job is to capture and hold your attention for as long as possible. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is business model reality. The most profitable companies in the world make money by selling your attention to advertisers. The longer they can keep you scrolling, clicking, and engaging, the more money they make. Their success depends on your failure to maintain focus on what actually matters to you. Understanding this dynamic is crucial for maintaining peak focus in the modern environment. You're not fighting against accidental distractions. You're defending against sophisticated psychological warfare designed to undermine your cognitive autonomy. The companies that want your attention have unlimited resources, advanced technology, and detailed data about what captures your specific psychological triggers. But you have advantages they don't expect. You have awareness of their tactics. You have the ability to make conscious choices about how you use technology. You have strategies for protecting and directing your attention toward what serves your genuine interests, rather than their profit motives. The first defense strategy is attention sovereignty. This means taking complete ownership of how you allocate your cognitive resources instead of letting external forces make these decisions for you. Most people use technology reactively, responding to notifications, alerts, and prompts without conscious choice about whether these interruptions serve their priorities. Attention sovereignty means becoming proactive about technology use. You decide when to check messages rather than checking them whenever notifications appear. You choose when to consume information rather than being fed content based on algorithmic recommendations. You control when to be available for communication rather than being constantly accessible to everyone. This requires changing your relationship with technology from reactive to intentional. Instead of allowing devices and applications to interrupt you whenever they want something, you interact with them on your terms, when it serves your priorities, for specific purposes that advance your goals. Practical attention sovereignty means turning off all non-essential notifications, batching similar digital activities into specific time blocks, and creating substantial periods each day when you're completely disconnected from digital input. It means treating your devices as tools that serve your purposes rather than entertainment systems that consume your time. The second defense strategy is environmental architecture. This means designing your physical and digital environments to support focus rather than undermine it. Most people live and work in environments that make distraction easy and concentration difficult, then wonder why they struggle to maintain attention. Environmental architecture starts with creating designated spaces for focused work that are completely free from distracting stimuli. This might mean a specific room, desk, or even just a particular chair that you use only for important work. When you're in this space, your brain learns to associate the environment with focused attention. Your digital environment requires equally careful design. This means organizing your computer desktop to eliminate visual distractions, using applications that block distracting websites during work sessions, and setting up your devices so that everything you need for productive work is easily accessible, while everything that might distract you requires extra effort to reach. The goal is making focused work the path of least resistance while making distraction more difficult and less rewarding. When your environment automatically supports concentration, you don't have to rely on willpower to stay focused. Good choices become easy choices. The third defense strategy is cognitive immunization. This involves building mental resistance to the psychological techniques that distraction technologies use to capture your attention. When you understand how these techniques work, you become less susceptible to their influence. Most distraction technologies use variable reward schedules, social validation mechanisms, and fear of missing out triggers to keep you engaged. Understanding these psychological hooks allows you to recognize when they're being used on you and make conscious choices about whether to respond. Cognitive immunization also means developing metacognitive awareness during technology use. Before you pick up your phone or open a distracting website, pause and ask yourself what you're hoping to accomplish. Are you looking for specific information? Or are you just seeking stimulation? Are you using technology to solve a problem, or are you using it to avoid important work? This brief moment of conscious reflection often reveals that your impulse to check devices or browse websites isn't serving any genuine purpose. It's just a habitual response to boredom, anxiety, or the desire for immediate gratification. When you recognize this pattern, you can choose to redirect your attention toward more meaningful activities. The fourth defense strategy is social boundary management. Other people can either support or sabotage your focus, often without realizing the impact they're having on your cognitive performance. Managing these social dynamics is crucial for maintaining peak attention in environments where other people have different priorities and different relationships with distraction. This means having explicit conversations with family members, colleagues, and friends about your focus priorities and the boundaries you need to maintain peak cognitive performance. It means explaining why you don't respond to non-urgent messages immediately and when people can expect responses from you. Social boundary management also involves modeling focused behavior for others instead of accommodating their distracted habits. When you consistently demonstrate that deep work and sustained attention are priorities, Other people often adjust their expectations and behavior to support your focus rather than undermine it. The fifth defense strategy is purpose-driven technology use. This means connecting your technology habits to larger goals and values, rather than using devices and applications for entertainment or distraction. When technology use is aligned with genuine purposes, it becomes a tool for achieving what matters to you, rather than an obstacle to focus. Purpose-driven use involves regularly auditing your technology habits and eliminating applications, websites, and digital activities that don't serve your real priorities. It means being intentional about the information you consume, the people you follow on social platforms, and the digital tools you allow into your attention ecosystem. This doesn't mean eliminating all entertainment or social technology use. It means being conscious and intentional about these choices, rather than using technology habitually or compulsively. When digital activities are aligned with your values and goals, they support your overall life satisfaction, rather than undermining your ability to focus on what matters most. The sixth defense strategy is attention training consistency. Your focus skills will atrophy if you don't maintain them. Just as physical fitness requires ongoing exercise, cognitive fitness requires regular practice. This is especially important in environments designed to weaken your concentration abilities. Consistent attention training means maintaining daily practices that strengthen your focus muscles regardless of external conditions. This might include meditation, reading challenging books without distractions, engaging in complex problem-solving activities, or any other practices that require sustained concentration. The key is consistency rather than intensity. Brief, daily practice is more effective than sporadic, longer sessions. Your brain responds better to regular training than to occasional intensive efforts. Even 10 minutes per day of deliberate attention practice can maintain and gradually improve your focus capabilities. Regular attention training also helps you notice when your focus skills are declining due to environmental pressures or increased stress. When you have a consistent practice, you have a baseline for recognizing changes in your cognitive performance and making adjustments before significant deterioration occurs. Maintaining peak focus in the modern world requires understanding that you're swimming against a cultural current that favors distraction, immediate gratification, and scattered attention. But when you develop the strategies and skills for protecting your cognitive resources, you gain access to levels of mental performance that become increasingly rare and therefore increasingly valuable. Chapter 15. Your Complete Mental Transformation Blueprint. Everything you've learned up to this point leads to this moment. You now understand the science of attention, the psychology of focus, the techniques for concentration, and the strategies for maintaining mental clarity in a distractible world. But understanding and implementation are different things. Knowledge without action changes nothing. This chapter is your blueprint for turning everything you've learned into lasting transformation. The transformation process happens in 3 phases: foundation building, skill development, and mastery integration. Each phase builds on the previous one, and rushing through any phase undermines the entire process. This isn't about quick fixes or overnight changes. This is about systematic, permanent upgrade of your mental capabilities. Phase 1 is foundation building, and it lasts approximately 60 days. During this phase, your only job is establishing the basic habits and environmental conditions that make sustained focus possible. You're not trying to achieve peak performance yet. You're creating the conditions where peak performance can eventually emerge. Foundation building starts with sleep optimization. For the next 60 days, you commit to 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night. This isn't negotiable. Everything else depends on having the neurological foundation that only adequate sleep can provide. Poor sleep makes every other focus technique infinitely more difficult. Environmental design is equally fundamental. During Phase 1, you eliminate the most obvious sources of distraction from your living and working spaces. Turn off non-essential notifications. Create at least one space in your home that's designed specifically for focused work. Remove visual clutter from your primary workspace. These changes seem simple, but they create the environmental foundation everything else builds upon. The third foundation building element is establishing a daily attention training practice. This doesn't need to be complicated or time-consuming. 5 to 10 minutes per day of focused attention meditation is sufficient. The goal isn't achieving perfect concentration. The goal is building the habit of daily cognitive training and developing basic awareness of your mental state. During Phase 1, you also begin tracking your attention patterns without trying to change them dramatically. Notice when your focus is naturally strongest during the day. Observe what activities and environments support concentration versus those that fragment attention. Become aware of your cognitive rhythms without judging them or forcing immediate changes. The final foundation building element is gradual technology boundary implementation. Start with small changes like putting your phone in another room during meals or designated work periods. Begin batching email checking into specific times rather than responding continuously throughout the day. These aren't dramatic changes, but they begin establishing your authority over technology rather than letting technology control your attention. Foundation building might seem too gradual or insufficient for people who want rapid transformation. But this phase creates the psychological and environmental conditions that make advanced focus techniques possible. Without this foundation, advanced practices either fail completely or produce temporary results that don't last. Phase 2 is skill development, and it lasts approximately 90 days. During this phase, you systematically develop the specific cognitive abilities that enable sustained peak performance. This is where you learn to enter flow states reliably, maintain concentration under pressure, and direct your attention with precision toward what matters most. Skill development begins with implementing the focus power system you learned about earlier. You start using attention architecture principles to optimize your environment for different types of mental work. You begin practicing cognitive control techniques that allow you to redirect your attention when it wanders. You experiment with flow state engineering to identify the conditions that reliably produce peak performance for you. During this phase, you also begin specializing your focus techniques for different types of work. You develop different attention approaches for creative tasks versus analytical work versus strategic thinking. You learn to calibrate your attention intensity based on task requirements rather than using the same unfocused approach for everything. Advanced distraction resistance techniques are introduced during Phase 2. You practice maintaining concentration while gradually increasing the level of environmental distractions. You develop the ability to work effectively even when conditions aren't perfect. You build cognitive resilience that allows you to maintain focus quality despite obstacles and interruptions. Phase 2 also includes systematic stress-focus integration. You learn to maintain cognitive clarity during high-pressure situations rather than letting stress undermine your thinking. You practice using pressure as a performance enhancer rather than a performance inhibitor. You develop strategies for sustaining focus during adversity rather than only when everything is going well. The advanced concentration techniques from Chapter 13 are gradually introduced during Phase 2. You begin experimenting with micro-recovery attention cycling, attention anchoring under distraction, and flow state stacking. These techniques require the foundation established in Phase 1 and shouldn't be attempted earlier in the process. Phase 3 is mastery integration, which is ongoing for the rest of your life. During this phase, focused attention becomes your default mode rather than something you have to consciously activate. Peak cognitive performance becomes automatic rather than something you have to force. Mental clarity becomes as natural as breathing. Mastery integration means that focus skills become integrated into your identity rather than remaining external techniques you sometimes use. You no longer think of yourself as someone who's trying to develop better concentration. You are someone who naturally maintains sustained attention on what matters most. During this phase, you begin teaching focus principles to others, which deepens your own understanding and commitment. You become a model of what sustained attention looks like in practice. Your consistent demonstration of focused behavior influences the people around you and creates environments that support rather than undermine concentration. Advanced practitioners in Phase 3 develop the ability to maintain peak cognitive performance regardless of external conditions. They can focus deeply in chaotic environments. They can think strategically under extreme pressure. They can access flow states in suboptimal conditions. They become anti-fragile in their cognitive capabilities, getting stronger rather than weaker when faced with challenging mental conditions. Mastery integration also involves continuous refinement of your focus skills based on changing life circumstances and evolving challenges. The specific techniques you use may change over time, but your commitment to mental clarity and your ability to direct attention with precision become permanent characteristics. The transformation blueprint isn't just about individual focus improvement. It's about becoming the kind of person who creates value through sustained, high-quality thinking. When you can consistently direct your mental resources toward what matters most, you become capable of contributions that scattered, distracted people simply cannot make. This transformation changes everything. Your work quality improves dramatically because you can think more clearly and deeply about important problems. Your relationships improve because you can be fully present with people instead of being mentally scattered. Your learning accelerates because you can sustain attention on challenging material instead of giving up when things get difficult. Most importantly, you develop cognitive autonomy. Instead of having your attention controlled by external forces, you choose where to direct your mental energy. Instead of being reactive to distractions and interruptions, you become proactive about protecting and investing your cognitive resources. The choice is yours. You can continue operating with scattered, fragmented attention like most people, accomplishing less than your potential and feeling constantly overwhelmed by competing demands for your mental energy. Or you can commit to the systematic development of focus mastery and access levels of cognitive performance that most people never experience. Where focus goes, power flows. The question is, where will your focus go from here? Will you let it be controlled by forces outside yourself? Or will you take complete ownership of your most valuable resource and direct it toward creating the life and impact you actually want? The techniques exist. The science is proven. The blueprint is complete. All that remains is your decision to begin, and your commitment to continue until focused attention becomes as natural and automatic as breathing. Your transformed mind is waiting. The only question is whether you'll do what's necessary to claim it.